Right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now as promised is Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, former Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, former Senior Military Intelligence Officer for the Department of Defense, and author of a great new book, The Field of Fight: How We Can Win the Global War Against Radical Islam and its Allies. Field of Fight. There it is on your TV screen. General, it is an honor and a pleasure, sir.
Thanks for having me.
So much going on before we get to the book. I know, and I know you've been critical,
complex.
but what did you think of what the police chief in Dallas said? Get off the protest line. We're hiring. Be part of the solution,
Yeah,
not the problem.
it was profound. It required a lot of intellectual courage, and I think that all chiefs of police around our country, in every major city and every small city, all applauded exactly what he said. And for a guy to be able to say something like that in the times that we are in right now, that was probably one of the smartest things to say that we could find in a leader. And in his case, I was just in Dallas on Sunday, yesterday morning, and in front of his police headquarters. And that city is in a state of shock right now because of what happened. And I think that, frankly, the country is reeling from everything going on. So I appreciate what Donald Trump is saying about essentially the rule of law in this country. We cannot have a breakdown of the rule of law. That is one of the strategic advantages that we have, and without it, we have anarchy. And I think that we have seen in the last 24, 48, 72 hours in some of our cities elements of anarchy within these various groups, and we have to be very careful about this.
What about the police letting these protesters in many cities close down highways? You know, they get permits to protest. They don't get permits to march anywhere they want. It happens here in New York. It happens all over. Should the police, especially in the wake of Dallas, be more stringent and strict with how they handle the protests?
Yeah, I think that, one, we have a constitutional right to freedom of assembly. So, and you can do it lawfully, and you do it with permission, and everything that you described, Steve. I believe that police are going to have to gain better control, and the challenge for them are the resources that they do not have within some of these larger cities. So, I mean, these inside of these protests, what is happening, and I think what we're seeing, especially in some of these larger protests, you're finding elements, human beings, who are essentially are attempting to sort of commit or incite riots. And when you start to see M80 grenades being thrown at police and all this other stuff. So we cannot have the breakdown of rule of law in this country.
You talk about in your book, and you had a lot of problems and disagreements with President Obama,
right.
Which led to you resigning your position. But what about what he said? He called a press conference at 1 a.m. in Poland, local time, before Dallas, to talk about how blacks are mistreated in this country. And since then, after the Dallas shooting, where the guy said to the police, "Here's why I'm doing it. I hate whites and I hate cops. I want to kill white cops." President said just the other day, "We don't know why he did it." Said about the Orlando shooter the other day, "We don't know why he did it," when he told us why he did it. Right. That goes to the fight against terrorism that you talk about in your book. If you don't recognize the problem.
If you don't recognize the problem for what it is, and you don't clearly define it, and especially as the President of the United States, never mind what Hillary Clinton has recently said, but as the President of the United States, your job is to instill a sense of safety and security in our country instead of actually adding fuel to this fire that we have raging around the country right now in some of our cities. So I think what the president continues to demonstrate is real lack of strategic leadership. And honestly, in a way, we have ourselves to blame because the American public put him into office twice. We have a chance now to change that in a big way in this national election, and that's where I believe that Donald Trump is by far the best candidate that we have, and the guy that can take this country and get it back on the right track.
Everybody's been, not to interrupt, everybody's been asking you, and I'm going to ask you, although last week I was told by a source that Governor Pence was going to be the vice presidential candidate. I reported that. Today, thehill.com says 95% sure it's going to be Pence. Although over the weekend, there was a lot written about the possibility that you would be the VP. Yesterday, I saw you asked if you were vetted, if you filled out any paperwork. As far as you know, are you under consideration to be Donald Trump's vice president? Has he told you that? Has anyone in the camp told you that? You had to have been vetted and handed over something by now if that were the case, correct?
Yeah. I have been advising Donald Trump personally and then through his inner circle for the better part of a year, almost since last,
On the issues in your book.
On everything, yes.
Terrorism, military.
Specifically on the issues
Right.
in the book, The Field
Yeah.
of Fight, but on a range of issues. So I've been close to the campaign
Right.
for a while. I think that the fact that I'm in this mix and I'm in this conversation, Steve, is an unbelievable honor from a kid who grew up in a small town in the smallest state of the Union,
Right.
3 hours up the road in the state of Rhode Island. So, I mean, this is an honor for me.
I'll try it one more time, though, with all
yeah.
due respect. But have you been vetted? You would know. Have you handed over what they would say? Hey, we need this, we need that. Have anybody? Have you done it?
I'm an easy guy to vet. I've spent almost 3.5 decades in the military, and so it's pretty simple guy to vet.
Do you think you're going to be the vice presidential candidate?
What I know at this point in time is that the conversation that is being had, and I'm honored to be part of that conversation.
Okay,
and I have always been honored to serve this country, particularly in uniform, and I loved it, loved every minute of it, and I do miss it.
Hillary Clinton, you brought her up, and you were talking about probably the clip we played, among other things, where she blamed white people for what's going on. But, there's a poll out today, ABC News, Washington Post poll, that talks about 56% are disappointed in FBI Director Comey's decision. Yet, a very small percentage would change their vote. In other words, an overwhelming majority of the people who are disappointed say it won't affect how they vote, whether they vote for Hillary or not.
Right.
Is this something that Donald Trump can exploit? Or is Hillary going to skate here with Comey and skate into the White House?
She can't skate through this, no. Hillary Clinton, as a senior member of our National Security Council, put our nation at risk by her actions. She lacks any accountability for herself and even those small elements, the staff around her. She has no business running for President of the United States or Commander-in-Chief, and she should never have a security clearance again, to include the people around her that were sort of part of this story that Director Comey told. Essentially, he said, hey, she lied. She's lied.
Yeah.
And so I asked months ago, Steve, that she step down from running for president. She's got no business. She's lacks total accountability to us, the American public, and frankly to herself.
So you would recommend that the current DIA heed the requests of Congress and to take away her security clearance now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would have had, for 1% of what she did, mine removed. I would have lost my job. I would have probably been put up on charges and possibly thrown in jail.
How do we win the global war against radical Islam, as you describe in the book, The Field of Fight?
Great. So two reasons why I wrote the book. Number one was that we have a war that is being waged against us, and this administration does not allow particularly people in the government to talk about it, to describe it, define it clearly. So that's number one. The second thing is that we actually can win this if we decide through our willingness, our resolve, and our determination to do that. I would say, just in general, Steve, that in the book I describe, and it's sort of a how to win chapter, one of the biggest things that we have to do is we have to discredit the ideology of this radical Islamic movement.
Yep.
And by discrediting that ideology and allowing us to discredit that ideology, and also bringing in these other Muslim leaders that are out there and putting them to task, calling them to task to say, hey, you have to do more in your own system to fix this. Otherwise, it's going to come around and bite you in the rear end.
And
which
that's internationally and locally.
Internationally and right here in the homeland.
Yeah.
Right here in the homeland. I mean, it's people have asked me, well, are we a threat in the homeland? Hey, we've already had 9/11. We've had twice this city's been attacked in a major way. All the other things.
And the FBI should be allowed to have back in their training manuals radical Islam?
And other elements within our homeland security, within our law enforcement professionals, absolutely. Defense, everywhere.
General Michael Flynn, thank you, sir.
Steve,
and please come back whether you're vice president or not. Promise?
Absolutely.
Okay, good enough. And the book, folks, The Field of Fight, by Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. A great honor and a pleasure. Thank you. Up next, Bree Payton, staff writer for The Federalist, and your phone calls don't go away.